Welcome to This Explainer. Look, if you're a busy professional feeling that deep, heavy weight of burnout, you are in exactly the right place. We're completely rethinking productivity today. We are moving way past that exhausting hustle culture, and we're going to show you how to literally achieve more by doing less. So, let's kick things off with a pretty tough question. Are you actually productive or are you just busy? Like, if you're constantly running on that hamster wheel, doing more work, sleeping way less, why does it feel like you just aren't making any meaningful progress? It's the worst kind of cycle, right? Your energy is totally drained, but your biggest goals don't feel any closer. So here is our mission for today. First, I want to validate your exhaustion because it is real. But then we're going to dive into a scientifically backed framework to completely shift your mindset. We're moving from grinding harder to systematizing smarter. You don't need to magically find more hours in the day. You just need a much more strategic approach to the hours you already have. Okay, here is our roadmap for this session. First, the burnout paradox. Second, why willpower fails. Third, the power of Pareto. Fourth, mastering deep work. And finally, distraction-free systems. Let's get right into it. Part 1, the burnout paradox. Doing more, but making less progress. Moving into Part 2, why willpower always fails and how to protect your mental real estate. You know, your cognitive capacity is actually incredibly limited. Think of your brain like a tiny, super exclusive VIP section in a club. If you waste that space trying to keep track of every minor little task or fighting off constant digital pings, well, you're inevitably going to hit a wall of exhaustion. You have got to fiercely protect your mental real estate. See, relying on pure willpower is basically like fighting gravity by pushing a massive boulder up a really steep hill. It's totally exhausting, and the second you slip, bam, you're crushed. But designing a smart system, that is like rolling that exact same boulder down a hill, letting gravity do all the heavy lifting for you. The data totally backs this up too. Studies show that your environment dictates your behavior far more than your best laid plans or your sheer willpower. It's what we call the cookie jar effect. If you have a jar of fresh chocolate chip cookies just sitting right there on your desk, you're going to eat one. Your environment triggers the action, completely bypassing your willpower. All right, Part 3, the power of Pareto and brutally cutting your to-do list. You've probably heard of the Pareto principle, or the 80-20 rule. It reveals that 80% of your impact comes from just 20% of your efforts. Think about what that actually means. If you have 10 items on your to-do list, 8 of them are essentially a massive waste of your valuable time. They keep you incredibly busy, sure, but they absolutely do not drive meaningful results. Now, what if we take that a step further and apply Pareto to itself? We get Pareto squared. 20% of 20% is just 4%. So this means a mere 4% of your highly focused effort drives an astonishing 64% of your total results. Just imagine identifying those few crucial tasks. It completely shifts how you view your typical 8-hour workday, because the vast majority of your success is coming from a tiny fraction of absolute dialed-in focus. This right here is the performance paradox in action. A strictly busy person spreads their energy paper thin, trying to tackle 100% of their tasks. But a dangerously productive person, they actively reject 80% of the fluff just to master that vital 20%. Sometimes doing way less of the trivial stuff is exactly what gives you the bandwidth to execute brilliantly on the specific levers that actually move the needle. Which brings us to Part 4, mastering deep work, where true productivity actually happens. Deep work is what separates real needle-moving progress from just, working hard. It's a state of high cognitive efficiency where your brain's default mode network gets suppressed. That network is basically that wandering background anxiety state where you're stressing about unread emails or what you're making for dinner later. When you finally shut that mental static down, you allow your mind to connect complex ideas effortlessly. That is when true innovation turns on. But here's the catch. Entering this state takes serious time. It takes about 5 to 10 minutes just to quiet down that default mode, and up to 30 minutes to actually achieve deep work if you have a distractible brain. So what does this mean? If you're checking your phone every 5 minutes, you are biologically preventing yourself from ever doing meaningful work. Your brain is essentially stuck perpetually rebooting, never actually loading up the heavy software. To enter deep work on command, you really need to stick to this checklist. First, define a crystal clear objective. Second, block out a dedicated chunk of time. Third, Do some cognitive offloading. Literally write your goals down on paper so you aren't holding them up in your working memory. And fourth, absolute complete distraction removal. This gives your brain one singular, highly specific target to attack. All right, last section, part 5, building distraction-free systems with highly actionable steps.
Here's a great rule of thumb. You have to fiercely protect your scheduled focus time. Treat it as precious and vulnerable as a baby that needs a babysitter, instead of just hoping you'll magically be left alone. I mean, you wouldn't just leave a baby on the floor and go out to lunch, right? So don't leave your scheduled deep work completely undefended from interruptions either.
Okay, here is your direct progression to get there. Step 1, optimize your physical space to control the environment. Remove the cookie jar. Step 2, apply the 2-minute rule. If a task takes less than 2 minutes, like a super quick message reply, just do it immediately so it doesn't clutter up your mental real estate later. And step 3, chain these positive behaviors together so your systems eventually just run entirely on autopilot. You know, there is a massive difference between exhausting yourself with good intentions and just succeeding by default because you have a good system. If your intention is, I will ignore my phone, well, you're going to burn through your willpower and end up exhausted. But if your system is, my phone charges in another room, you get effortless focus. Let the environment do the heavy lifting. Always remember this powerful philosophy from early Toyota manufacturing: lose the game to win the championship. Sometimes you literally have to deliberately slow down and sacrifice immediate output to build a much more robust system. Toyota actually used to let workers pull a cord to stop the entire assembly line just to fix errors. They lost the immediate game, sure, but they absolutely won the long-term championship of efficiency. So, let's wrap this explainer up with a challenge for you. Take a hard look at your schedule right now. Apply the Pareto principle and ask yourself, what is the single most useless task you can ruthlessly drop today to protect your mental real estate? Reclaim your focus, build those systems, and go achieve more by doing less.